Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic episode.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to do a recap and review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I just got home from seeing in an advanced screening. So let's get right into it. As the movie starts, the Guardians have established their headquarters on a rebuilt nowhere. The night after they settle in, they're attacked by Adam Warlock, a supernatural being who's trying to kidnap Rocket for the High Evolutionary, who is Rocket's creator. During the fight, Rocket is seriously injured, and the Guardians are unable to tend to his wounds due to a kill switch embedded in him by the High Evolutionary. So they decide to travel to Orgoscope, which is the headquarters of Orga Corp, in the hopes of finding an override code, because I guess that's the High Evolutionary's corporation that he operates through. With the assistance of the Ravagers and a reluctant Gamora back from the dead, apparently, but in an earlier time version from the one that spent time with the Guardians previously, and who was Peter's girlfriend. They infiltrate Orgosphere and retrieve Rocket's file. However, they're attacked by Orgosphere's guards, from whom they barely escape. They then learn that the file doesn't contain the code for the kill switch, but figure out that Thiel, one of the High Evolutionary's scientists, may have the override code stored in his computer-type memory that he has attached to his head, and decide to track him down. And we're going to fast forward a little bit here because there's a whole lot of action that occurs in the process of them tracking this guy down that, would make this recap very tedious to get into. So we're going to skip it and just get to the part where Quill and Groot successfully defeat the High Evolutionary's men and capture Thiel, jumping off of the Evolutionary's ship with him and retrieving his memory. Once again, a whole lot of action comes next, and we're going to fast forward through that and get to the part where on the Guardian's ship, Rocket flatlines and has a near-death experience, where he's met by his former childhood friends, Lila, Teefs, and Floor, whom we've been getting to know throughout the whole movie in a series of flashbacks of Rockets. It's a really important part of the movie, but again, it would take a really long time to get into all the scenes that those characters are in. So I don't want this recap to go on forever, so I'm going to leave it out. But as he's having a near-death experience, he reunites with them, I guess, sort of in the afterlife, who tell him that his time has not yet come before Quill successfully implements the override code and revives him. Fast forward again through a bunch of action, which essentially amounts to everybody fighting the bad guys and the bad guys losing. As the film ends, some of the Guardians decide to step away from the team to pursue various important personal interests. And Quill makes Rocket captain of the ship and the Guardians before leaving for Earth to visit his grandfather. Mantis embarks on a journey of self-discovery, Gamora reunites with the Ravagers, and Nebula and Drax remain on Nowhere to raise some rescued children from the High Evolutionary's ship. In a mid-credits scene, the new Guardians, Rocket, Groot, Cosmo, a talking Russian cosmonaut dog, Kraglin, Warlock, who's turned good, and a child named Phyla, are shown undertaking a new mission, and a post-credits scene features Quill reuniting with his grandfather on Earth. So, as I said, I left out a lot of stuff because this movie is action-packed and event-packed. A lot happens in this movie, and it just would have been a very tedious recap if I went into everything. So that's the basic plot. But the film is so good, you guys. You have to go see this movie when it opens on the 5th or shortly thereafter, because it's really, really good. We get a lot of backstory about Rocket and what he went through. And it really is some heavily emotional stuff. And it's just gut-wrenching ultimately, but it's a good story. And intermixed with that is the backstory of the High Evolutionary and why he's doing what he's doing. Essentially, he's crazy and he's a megalomaniac, and he thinks he can remake the universe, and he wants Rocket back because after making him, he discovered that he's really, really smart and that he can help him imbue his future creations with that smartness and make sort of a race of perfect beings. But anyway, that backstory is peppered throughout the movie, and it's, some good stuff. There's a lot of interpersonal stuff that goes on between the members of the Guardians, which is very good, especially Gamora, who, again, is a past version of Gamora that somehow came back when the snap was undone instead of the version that survived the snap originally and then went back in time. It's very complicated. I didn't really understand it myself, but she's a different Gamora. And so there's some interpersonal stuff with her and Peter and, even the rest of the crew, because Nebula, of course, is her sister. So, that makes the movie really great as well. The performances are great. Karen Gillan is excellent in this film. Zoe Saldana is excellent. Bradley Cooper is excellent. The young lady who plays Mantis, her first name is Palm. I can't remember her last name, but she's very good. I love that character. And the cool thing about this movie is that even though Gamora is kind of, she kind of behaves contrary, like a contrarian during the movie, she really does pitch in and help the Guardians with their mission, as does the rest of the team. They're all pulling together. They're all on each other's sides. They bicker and stuff. And, Nebula's kind of a hard ass, but everybody does the right thing in this movie. And it was really cool to see that all of these characters are trying to do the right thing and pull together to help their friend who's in trouble and the rest of the team that's, is counting on each other to accomplish the mission. It was good to see Karen Gillan, as Nebula, as a good guy versus the villain that she kind of was at first when we first met her. And, Dave Bautista is really good as well in it. Drax is hilarious. So, it's just a really good movie, and it really wraps up the Guardians saga quite well. The ending, is just very much of an up ending, and the characters feel all left in good places. And, you can't say that about a lot of the Marvel movies because they, are pieces of a bigger story. And this movie sort of stands alone. And so it can have its own encapsulated ending that's just an upbeat ending that doesn't lead into anything else. And it's a really good movie. And you guys should go out and see it. It's a little long. There's stuff in it that if they took it out, it wouldn't change the movie. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't like subtract from the important story beats of the film, but or of those beats making sense. But it's also fine that they're in there because it's all good. Everything in this movie is good. So it's just a really good film. 5 stars, 10 out of 10. Go see it as soon as you can.
I do have the teeniest, tiniest little critique about how they didn't really explain how Gamora is back and why she's a different version of Gamora. There's a quick scene where Peter kind of explains it, but it didn't really make sense to me, and I would have liked a little bit more explanation of that, but the fact that it's not there doesn't take away from the film at all. You kind of get the gist of it. Also, at a certain point in the movie, they all put on Nova Corps uniforms, the ones in the picture in the background as I'm taping this video. And it's not really explained why they have those. Nova Corps is a peacekeeping force in the universe, and somehow they all have Nova Corps uniforms. And they don't really ever tell you why that is. It's kind of weird, but again, it doesn't take away from the film at all.
The cool thing is that right at the end it says Star-Lord will return. So I guess there aren't going to be any more Guardians movies, but Peter Quill's character is going to come back, I guess. So I'm down with that. That'll be cool. Oh, and if you haven't played the Guardians of the Galaxy game, it's really good. It's based on the comics, not the movies. So the characters don't, you know, look like they're not likenesses of the movie actors, and the voices are not the movie actors. But it's a very, very good game. If you haven't played that, you should play it. That's it. I'm gonna get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.